He's a change maker, an education leader. He is the president of Christian Brothers University, CBU. It's time for a conversation with Dr. John Smirelli, Jr. Let's start out. You recently announced your retirement coming up at the end of the school year, so as the students walk across for their graduation, that will be a nice piece of your legacy. But before we talk about all of that and what's next, let's start with you coming to Memphis and describe kind of the transition and what brought you to Memphis, and let's start there.
I think, Jeremy, it's a great question. My entire life has been looking for opportunities to make a difference, and I've lived in multiple states. I've had 3 children born in 3 different states as an academic, and each change along the way, there were sort of opportunities to learn the culture of the region. And when we came to Memphis, my wife Eloise and I came to Memphis, and at that time I looked at a university that had an incredible tradition, incredibly strong university, and I said, this is a great place for me to spend my next part of my career, to be here, to be in Memphis, which needed so much, and just an opportunity to take a mission that was so significant and to apply it to a city that certainly needed that mission. And that really is what prompted me to move from the Northeast to come to Memphis, to look at this incredible community and see what we could do as a university together to make a difference.
What were some of the early onset goals that you had coming in?
The first challenge really is the first permanent lay president of a faith-based institution that had 150 years of history and over 300 years of mission. The first thing was to convince folks that the mission wasn't going away under a lay person's leadership, because brothers are wonderful individuals. They continued to run the university, do a great job of running the university, but in essence, they had a different perspective. Their focus was an internal focus. And so really the first goal was to sort of take what CBU was, this great institution in Midtown Memphis, and say, how do we change the way we look? Instead of saying what we're doing internally around those acres that we have in Midtown Memphis, why don't we just say, let's look the other way, and let's say, how do we as an institution make a difference to our community? And that was really a cultural shift of an organization. So we knew what we had internally. I knew what we had internally. We had great faculty, great administrators, great staff members who cared about students and who realized they could educate. So I wasn't worried about the educational process as much as I was worried about how do we then become part of this community in ways that we had never become part of the community previous to that. And that was really my major goal from the beginning of time, to say, let's see, what does this community need, and how does an institution like CBU become really a player in this community more so than ever?
Well, and being external focused, and you yourself jumping on nonprofit boards, serving out in the community, and being the example, the active example, I think that really set the tone too, and you did that early on. Share kind of that side of really activating and stepping in and kind of, like you said, getting outside of the 4 walls and being focused external and really opening up that floodgates for students and faculty and everyone to be heavily involved. I'm thinking of SOS, September of Service. There's so many neat stories of just community service that start to permeate the campus.
I felt very strongly that as the leader, it wasn't up to me to say, well, you faculty member X go and do this, and you business faculty member go this. In fact, I had to sort of lead by example, because it was such a cultural shift for the organization. So really what I really wanted to do, and I did, was, the Salvation Army, for example. I was a member of the Salvation Army board in my former location, and it was sort of natural transition as we were building the Kroc Center. I said, let's become part of the Kroc Center, a great structure here in this region. I was involved with Catholic Charities, so I said, let's get involved in Catholic Charities. Economic Club, we've got to get involved in the economic development of this region, so join that one. And they continued on and on in terms of my own life and in terms of different boards I began to serve on and enjoy, because what better way to learn the culture of your community than to serve on these not-for-profit boards, particularly ones that don't have a lot of money. And so you're constantly out there and constantly trying to advocate for those groups, but in essence what you are doing is you're advocating for your own university also, because I am the face of a university.
And you have the ability then to connect the students and everything else too.
Well, that's the resources we have.
Power, right.
Real power, because we have those resources. So let's go to the September of Service. We have this amazing faculty member, Tracy Burke, or just an amazing faculty member who was just looking for some way to take her honor students and the rest of the community into the community. So what better way than have the September of Service, where 30 days during that month of September, every day we go to a different not-for-profit and do what they wanted to do. The key was, it goes back to the whole concept of listening. It wasn't like we said, well, you need organization X to do this. We said, we'll send a group of individuals to this organization. You tell us what you need to get done, and we'll do it. I mean, from yard work to accounting work to business practices. Whatever this organization needs, we would go there. And Dr. Burke mobilized our community and faculty, staff, alumni, trustees. They were all out there doing this, because it takes a village to do this. And in essence, it's so mission driven, because our founder, Jean-Baptiste de La Salle, was that kind of person. His preferential reaching out to those in need, wherever they may be. And that really is what we do at CBU in educating our students. We meet them where they are. Students are at different places in their lives and in their social lives, their academic lives. And so really what we do constantly is meet them where they are. And in essence, it's just what we do, but then broadening our scope to the community instead of just broadening our scope to individual students.
Let's talk about some of the things that you were really instrumental in. One is creating partnerships with the public schools. I think that's a big one. Let's start there.
Sure. Another one where I had to learn a lot about the education in Memphis and what the conditions were. It was sort of during a time where we were looking at merging, and then we de-merge, and I was very fortunate that Mayor Luttrell at the time appointed me to this committee called the Transition Planning Commission. And it was a commission of some amazing movers and shakers, non-political, basically an opportunity for us to look at a merger. What would a merger look like of Shelby County schools and Memphis City schools? So we got involved in that, and really the listening sessions to me were the most interesting ones, because we would go out to various locations, both in the city, the poorest neighborhoods in the city, some of the most affluent neighborhoods in the county, and we said, what do you want as parents in terms of the school systems? And to a person, rich, poor, we want a quality, safe education for our students, and we want a safe environment where our students can learn. We want good teachers, we want good principals. So that was pretty simple. So it got me thinking what do I need to do from a university point of view? Given, again, our patron saint is Jean-Baptiste de La Salle, patron saint of teachers. So really he sort of was instrumental 300 plus years ago of forming the classroom. So really what sort of was the next opportunity, given our amazing faculty in our education school, was to say, how do we form these partnerships with the pre-K through 12 entities in our region? So we really, the first one was, how do we first demystify the college experience? So we got going with Middle College High School across the street from us. Let's use geography. We're there, they're across the street. And let's offer dual enrollment, working with the school district to say, we can give college credit to these individuals by just coming across the street. Or we can certify their teachers and they don't even have to come across the street. In essence, what we were doing is demystifying the college experience for these amazing students. And really one of them, I'm very, very proud of that, because the truancy rate in that school is almost near zero, is recognized by the Department of Ed as a sort of one of these high quality blue ribbon schools. Many of the students come out with maybe 30 college credits.
It's also saving them money.
Saving them money in the long, short term, they're saving money. Demystifying college, because they're sitting in there in a classroom with college students and saying, hey, I can be one of those folks.
That's right.
And many of them being first generation, not understanding what the college experience was like, they got great understanding of that and interacting with our faculty. So in essence, we got something going that was a success. And when success breeds success, as you're well aware, and lots of the things that you do that are so successful. So,
and everybody wants to be associated with a winner too, and so that creates more opportunities. And I think anytime you build momentum, it's all about momentum. And when people start realizing, wait a second, what they're doing there is working, that's building momentum. We want to be a part of that too. We want to be a part of that too. and next thing you know, you create this groundswell where really big things happen. And I think that's important. In a lesson in and of itself is that you start small.
Yeah.
As you said, start across the street, start where there's geographic proximity, but then next thing you know, you look back over the course of a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, and now you've impacted many, many schools, but it just started one small step at a time.
And in a similar way, right next to the Middle College, right in association with Middle College was the Fairview School, a failing school, ready to be taken over by the state. And we said, parents come to me and said, hey, we've got some success. Why don't we move on that one? So we took our engineering faculty, our education faculty. They went over there, and thanks to some just amazing faculty in our school, we transformed that to the STEAM Academy now, and that's become one of the most popular middle schools in this region. And because of our interventions and in being involved in that particular environment. So really, that's what I found it's all about. So again, that's
Absolutely.
So we got dual enrollment going. So the dual enrollment piece, that web is now spread throughout many other schools in our region, and it's been one of those just great opportunities. And then you move that into the whole charter network, and we were approached to look at Crosstown High as a project-based learning school.
You beat me to the punch, because that's where I was going next.
Exactly.
Absolutely, yeah. Share that story, because that's huge.
I mean, another opportunity that there was a school that was supposed to be in Crosstown, and that's another amazing structure. Instead of knocking down a building, what do? We create a vertical village. If you don't think Memphis is doing some good things, look at that Crosstown facility. It's amazing. But what was it lacking? What was any village lacking is a good school. So we got involved very early on in the design of the school itself. It was basically there was nothing there when we got going on that. So we created an amazing board of amazing individuals beyond even CBU. So I mean, CBU was involved. I got to give my academic vice president, Paul Haught, a lot of credit, because he was really sort of you're the vision guy, but many times, unfortunately, the work for the vision guy goes to your associates, and so I got to give all those folks credit, because nothing happens because of me. It happens because of these partnerships, because of the opportunities. But if you look at Crosstown High, and we were able to build a school, thanks to some tremendous philanthropic support, which again Memphis is just fantastic for. The philanthropists here in this region quietly put more money into just things that are real relevant. So we developed a school, we got the school built, we brought our first class in this year, a freshman class, and we're going to go one at a time, with a very different philosophy, project-based learning, where really the students are going to learn through their passions, not necessarily sitting in a classroom. So if you haven't been over to that school, get over to that school, because it's incredible. There's no classrooms, there's no formal desks. But what they have there is just opportunities for learning at every level, interdisciplinary learning. Have we been successful with it? Don't know yet, because we haven't seen the results of our learning sort of metrics. But in essence, we got that first class in. They seem to be happy. They seem to be doing real well. Just another opportunity for us to get involved. And then what it does lead to is a different way of training teachers. So now what we have to do at our institutions, particularly at our institution, is change the way we train urban teachers in a project-based learning environment.
Right. It's very different than traditional.
So it's certainly a transformation of how we run education programs at not just our university, but probably across the city. And I know other universities, University of Memphis or Rhodes, some of the other ones that have teacher ed programs, are sort of looking at the urban teacher model and how do we get teachers to stay here? Well, I think project-based learning is one of those ways where it's such a unique way of teaching. And as the old guy here with the gray hair, it's I say it looks like it's working well, but the numbers will tell.
But in this case, to your point, you have an active training ground where it's like, this isn't just theory, this is, let's put it in place right now and give it a shot.
And we have this vertical village with, LSAC and Church Health and just all those organizations there. And we want our students to leave their classroom and go and maybe interact with, Scott Morris's group at Church Health or some of the other groups that are over there, to sort of get a sense of what it's like to, what is it like to understand bacteria when you're in a healthcare setting, and they'll learn that and they'll never forget it, at least in my own mind, because it's project-based learning. So
well, they're exposed to all of that right there, and even on the healthcare side, that was a whole other piece of this, is an MBA program focused on healthcare. That's another really interesting piece of this. Talk about kind of the MBA
Sure.
and the healthcare side.
I felt very strongly as I looked at this region, I said, we've got St. Jude, what an organization. You've got the Methodist, you've got Baptist, you've got St. Francis, just some amazing healthcare providers in this region. And I said very strongly, we need to do something. We need to be part of this in a very, very special way. So we had a very strong MBA program with Scott Lawyers who are running that. And we were already portable. We were going out to Medtronic, and we were offering MBAs at other places. But then, thanks to having Dave Archer join our faculty, who was former CEO of St. Francis, we're now working in a healthcare MBA because these educators, these healthcare providers need to understand the business aspects of medicine and delivering healthcare. So really, it's appropriate to this region. And the other area that we looked at was both physician assistant studies and nursing. And so where I came, again, from the Northeast, most providers or primary cares are nurse practitioners, but here in Memphis, no one had ever heard about a physician assistant studies program, which is a little bit different. It's the same kind of primary care delivery service, but a different model, more of a physician-like model. Anyway, we began that program at CBU. We had a few bumps in accreditation. We're back full force. We've got an amazing curriculum, some amazing faculty. So what we're doing is providing primary care physicians to this region. And we all know how difficult it is to go see a primary care physician, and just so difficult. So what we're trying to do here is populate this region with more primary care folks who are able to see patients and to make a difference to the health of this community. So really it was, and then because of nursing being another area that there's so much tremendous need in this area for baccalaureate trained nurses, we began an RN to BSN program. Again, we had a real well-renowned person run that program initially, Peggy Vieser, who's now retired, but in essence what we did was we added nursing, we added physician assistant studies, we had the healthcare MBA. So now we're major players in those particular regions, and I think they're going to make a huge difference to this region as we go forward.
Absolutely. Talk about going to the White House, the focus on Dreamers. I think that's a whole other kind of interesting piece of your legacy with CPU.
It really is one that there's a story here, and it came as a result of relationships in the community. One of the local faith-based individuals called me and said, we've got this one student who really is undocumented, really wants to come to CBU, has tremendous qualifications, but there's no way they can afford to get Pell grants or any kind of student loans or any kind of state money because they're not officially citizens. And so what I quickly did was I went to my enrollment people and said, Ann Kenworthy, who's been a partner in this one, and I said, Ann, how many do we have that potentially are in this category? And she said, well, maybe 11, 12, 15. And so it got me thinking, how do we make this into a program? How do we make, again, going back to our mission, we reach the students where they are? Well, here are students that are looking for an education, want an education, need to be able to afford an education, but with no federal or state support, how do you get an education? So going to local philanthropists and saying, here's our story. We've got individuals who are quite capable of coming to CBU. We have individuals who need support to be able to afford a CBU education. We're individuals who are with DACAs that are working. And so what we did was created the program that said, the philanthropy will provide you with support. We will offer you our typical scholarship, but you got skin in the game. Since you're working, you're going to have to pay a little bit for your education. So even though, so nothing is free, I mean, you're paying for your education. And in doing so, we kept looking at the numbers, and they kept growing and growing and growing. And I kept going back to the philanthropists, and I kept feeling kind of bad about it. I said, we've got maybe 45 or more of these students who would just benefit. And the first 25 we brought in, 24, succeeded in their first year, and one had to leave to get married. And so we said, look at the results we're getting. The grade point average is higher. what else can we do? So we were very, very fortunate to have our program recognized by a national organization called the Dream US. And this organization was an organization that sort of nationally looks at educating dreamers, and we were able to partner with them, and given the philanthropic support that we had here in Memphis, we were able to say, well, if we provide X, will you match that X so we can grow? So what we wound up doing now is we're reaching out to states like Georgia, Alabama, Missouri, dreamers who want to come here. So we're bringing individuals to Memphis, we're educating those individuals, and in doing so, it's just been really fun to watch. And it's all mission driven in terms of that, just watching their success, watching how they diversified our campus. They formed the student organization called Hola CBU, and that organization has just been really fun for our campus. So our non-dreamer students are looking at these kids, and I think we're breaking down cultural barriers that way, and it's really been pretty fun. And then got an invitation from, at that time, the Secretary of Ed, and who said, come to Washington, and President Obama.
It's a national spotlight on you in Memphis.
So I'm sitting there with Notre Dame and some of the other major schools that have been doing this also, and sitting down with them, and they said, well, we heard of you. We heard of you. It's like, Joe Biden, who was vice president at the time, said, oh, I know you folks, and it's like, whoa, how do they, what do these folks talk about? Anyways, and we were very fortunate to be able to get to the White House, and I was like a child in a candy store, just looking at the White House and just all the former presidents and just what was going on. We got a picture with the president, and whether you're Democrat, Republican, whatever, it just seemed to be the right thing to do. We weren't taking money from current students, we weren't taking federal dollars. We were very fortunate to have philanthropic support, and really for me that went better than a building. I mean, when we went to the philanthropist, they said, you want a building or you want to do this? And I said, support this program. This is really what it's all about. And the philanthropists were more than willing to do that. So without them, this could never have happened. So it's, I sort of had the ideas, but really at the bottom of the day, if you don't have the money to support these ideas, it's, they're not going to happen. So I really am very, very grateful to, again, the Memphis community for backing us. I mean, there's always the political, it's a tough time politically for these individuals, and hopefully we'll make some things happen. But we had a visit last April with Don Graham from the Washington Post fame, again, who saw us and said, I'm going to come down and see what these students are all about. He entertained these students, and they entertained him, and it was just told their stories, and it was really just a great opportunity for us to sort of get some national recognition for a real tiny university.
Well, I think that's, in and of itself, when you look at putting CBU on the map in a national spotlight way, it's neat to see these are all success stories, not just for CBU, but for Memphis and the Mid-South as a whole. As we start wrapping up, tell us one more thing that when you look at your tenure, decade of being able to make a difference at CBU, with CBU, through CBU, in the community, give us one other thing that puts a smile on your face in terms of the impact you've been able to have.
I think just quite honestly, Jeremy, I think it's just the relationships we've been able to develop with the community, because now people are reaching our way toward, they're coming out our way. For example, we've got an initiative called the 800 Initiative, where it's really involved with StartCo and Epicenter, and these are big organizations, and we're looking at minority business training, and how do we grow minority business in this region? And so what we're doing is we're sort of the house for this 800 Initiative, where basically, what do these companies need in terms of training? Do they need real basic skills, or do they need MBA type training? So really what we've been doing there is we've got tremendous support from the city, the county, FedEx, for example, to support this initiative. And what our goal is there is to grow minority business. So these businesses are going to be able to make a difference to this region. Again, hiring more people, more minorities to do the construction work in this region. And hopefully, if that continues to grow, there'll be just great opportunities. That's one of the things I'm very, very proud of.
Well, I think all that goes back to using your resources, you personally, CBU, as a catalyst to make a difference. So last question is, what's next?
I don't know. I wish I could, this is not being a political statement. I wish I could tell you what's next. It came to a point, I know it's not, it came to a point where I said 10 years is a good run, it's a good number. And I said at this point in time, it's time to bring a different personality into our campus and to sort of because I think leadership change is an important thing. I mean, most presidents at universities, it's a different world than the old world where presidents stay 20 or 25 years. The average lifespan of a president, not lifespan, but presidential span is about 6 years or so. So I'm geriatric as far as length. I told the board I'd say 5, and we've gone 10. So we're in pretty good shape right now. So, is it teaching? Is it fundraising? Is it telling stories? Is it consulting? I mean, one thing I do know, it's going to be grandparenting. From the time 10 years ago to now, I'm now up to 4 grandchildren and a 5th one on the way. And this job is a very consuming job of 7 days a week, and I need to spoil some grandchildren. So that's, I think, one of the real pieces I want to do. The other things will fall into place. I'm not really ready to retire yet per se, but more ready to sort of transition and to do something that also continues to nourish me.
We know that whatever you do, it will be good and you will make a difference. So,
I hope so.
You heard it here, you saw it here first. We get a chance to see and be a part of the next chapters with Dr. John Smirly Jr. We greatly appreciate you joining us for a conversation with Dr. John Smirly Jr.